My brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Since many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as those who were eyewitnesses from the beginning and ministers of the word have handed them down to us, I too have decided, after investigating everything accurately anew, to write it down in an orderly sequence for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may realize the certainty of the teachings you have received. Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news of him spread throughout the whole region. He taught in their synagogues and was praised by all. He came to Nazareth, where he had grown up, and he went according to his custom into the synagogue on the Sabbath day. He stood up to read and was handed a scroll of the prophet Isaiah. He unrolled the scroll and found the passage where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim a year acceptable to the Lord." Rolling up the scroll, he handed it back to the attendant and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue looked intently at him. He said to them, "Today, this scripture passage is fulfilled in your hearing." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Professional sports and run-ups to elections are part of the entertainment that we can enjoy during this time of the year. It's kind of fun to watch the likes of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, to listen to the likes of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And I would suggest that whether the Patriots win or lose, whether our favorite candidate wins or loses, that we follow the admonition we hear in the scriptures today. Do not be sad. Do not weep. We need to learn not to take too seriously those things over which we have very little control. The law of the Lord, when it was proclaimed, created a stir among people. People realized there's something in this for me. And it's something that's going to allow for me to have control over many things in my life. And so the law of the Lord taught people how to pray. It taught people how to get along with others, and allowed for people to develop the skills needed to meet their material needs. It's the reason that people assembled, as we heard proclaimed once again today, week after week on the Sabbath. They would assemble to listen to the word of God being proclaimed. They realized there's something that we can learn that's going to be extremely practical for our daily lives. We're going to learn, indeed, how to relate to the God who loves us. We're going to learn how to manage our affairs with other people. And we're going to develop a work ethic as the Bible teaches, the law of the Lord instructs, in order to be able to get ahead. Jesus was raised in this kind of a world, and investing ourselves in the law of the Lord, which refer to the first books of the Bible, is a far better investment than the stock market, because the dividends will always keep coming forth. And Jesus realized that himself. Jesus was raised in a Jewish world, and the law, he was instructed with it in his years of growing up and as a young adult. And as a result, Jesus learned how to engage in the material world. He became a craftsman. He realized that was one way to get ahead. And Jesus developed this self-esteem, this self-confidence as a result of following the work ethic that is taught in the Bible. Jesus was a popular figure. He got along with all kinds of people because Jesus learned the ways of love and how to manage them in relationships with everybody he would encounter. And finally, Jesus, he learned how to pray. He did what all of us have to continuously do, to develop a regimen, a discipline of prayer in order to be drawn ever more closely to God. In the years of growing up, so many people received the physical, the material, the social, the spiritual foundations that would allow for us to do well in our adult lives. There are lots of things I didn't have. I didn't have a car through all the years that I was in school. I never had a computer. In fact, they hadn't been invented yet. And I never had a credit card. But what I did, I had was essential. Food and shelter, classes and books, spiritual mentors, and mass. And it was the result of being given the things, maybe not the things that I wanted, but everything that I needed, I've been able to do well. And what happened to Jesus is that he did well with the foundations that he established in his life because he followed the law of the Lord. And as a result, he realized, okay, now I can start the real work, engage in the real task for which I was born. I've got the training, I've got the skills. I'm going to start to change the world, and I'm going to do it one person at a time. Jesus declares, here's the kind of work I'm going to start doing. I'm going to bring glad tidings to the poor. I'm going to bring sight to the blind. I'm going to set captives free. And so Jesus encountered people who were poor. People who are poor are people who feel that they haven't got everything that they need. Jesus reveals that the God who loves us wants us to have everything indeed that we really need. Not always going to get what we want, but we're going to get what we need. And I think it's good and important to notice. And then Jesus comes amongst people who feel captive. They feel trapped, compulsively driven, obsessed with something. It might be money, it might be drugs, it might be alcohol. And Jesus says, I'm going to work to set captives free. Because the God who loves us doesn't want us to be controlled by anything here in this world. And then Jesus resolves, I'm going to help the blind to see. And the blind can include people who take things way too seriously because they only see a very narrow view of life. And what Jesus will do is to help people to see that we do live in a world where there is beauty, where indeed there's a lot of goodness, and where there's love. And as people begin to see, they wouldn't be blind anymore. The law of the Lord is perfect, the Bible reminds us again today. And it does for us what it has always done. Right here and now, the word of the Lord refreshes the soul. It enlightens the eye. It rejoices the heart.